Hello once again, Magic players. Welcome to another episode of Draw Go. Today, I'm going to be completing the first half of an art cycle that I have created for the Sliver Land of Illustrious deck. Now, when it comes to creating Magic custom cards, especially ones for an entire deck, one of the funnest things that I like to do is to try and create little cycles of arts inside of it. Cycles are one of the most creative things about the game Magic the Gathering, so I like to try and exemplify or emphasize that fact in the arts that I have. And this is one reason why it's important to collect a whole lot of art. I usually want to say 2.5 for every card that you're hoping to collect. So for this cycle, the Time Spiral block had a cycle of ally and enemy color slivers in it, because slivers were a theme of that set. And one thing that I wanted to show off was the play between the two of them. So the first half of the cycle is all phosphophyllite on the ally colored slivers. And this, I didn't worry so much about the text or the colors of the card, and just to look to find arts that I could either extend these little liquid gold parts, or that I could create new liquid gold parts. It doesn't really look like it, but this part was all either copied or drawn on by myself. Pretty proud of these ones, and I wanted to complete the cycle by giving both Phosphophyllite and Cinnabar, who is on the enemy colored ones, a 5-color legend of arts that rhymed with each other. This is one of my favorite terms to use when talking about art or literature, things like that. Finding things that rhyme. To rhyme is to not necessarily be the same, but to kind of coincide with each other in a way that is, well, in my world, aesthetically pleasing. So, I found this lovely art of Phosphophyllite, and there is same artist, which is always excellent, drew a very similar version of Cinnabar facing the opposite direction. So you get like a little panorama effect when you hold up the two of these friends next to each other. So we're going to think a little bit ahead of time where we want the borders to break. With all of these, I tried to, with a little exceptions here and there, but for the most part, the art themselves of Phosphophyllite stays within the border, and it's only the gold that extends out beyond it. This one I wanted to give a real pop to the, whatever they're called, the gold parts, and I feel like that really helped. This one I kept inside the border, same with this one. And this one, the arm comes out a little bit, but the head stays within. All of this is trying to help create these layers, these 3D effects. And it's what you're gonna have to think a lot about when you're creating your arts, or just so you know, that's what I think about when I'm creating your arts. As this is a street that can walk multiple ways. So when we're looking at this artist, we can see Phosphophyllite herself is kind of set a little bit in the background. These little bubbles are floating around her. So what we're probably going to want to do, we can do this a couple of different ways. We can kick her out to the front and also snag some of these bubbles. What's going to make this difficult is these beautiful little fluorescent butterflies. They look gorgeous, but the way they're covering her rear here is kind of gonna make the art look a little bit odd. They'll look really off, but we'll still see. when I was looking at the original Sliver Queen's art, because I enjoy doing that. Ron Spencer, excellent magic artist. If I were to try and describe Ron Spencer's art style just really simply, it would be muscly and busy. Sliver Queen is no exception to this. I feel like all of his characters have either no body fat or so very little. Their muscles are often bulging, they're really defined, and the Sliver Queen is just, slivers in general, very thin. But the Sliver Queen in particular, like, you can see bones jutting out of her. She's got that massive head, looks like terrifying and intimidating, which is, I think, one reason why Magic has tapped him before in the past, and I would hope that they would be able to tap him again. Perhaps he chose to leave Magic, in which case, good for him. People typically try and make the best choices that they can for themselves, so I don't bemoan anyone for deciding that Wizards isn't treating them properly, but I would love to see some of the old greats get on to Magic. Like, Ron Spencer here made one of my favorite cards, being a green-white player and being the kind of player that pursues value almost more than any other aspect of the game. He illustrated the original Aura Shards. I don't think it's ever had a art change, but I'd like to hedge my bets. And that card has come to the chagrin of many a artifact player or enchantress style deck. Okay, so we need to grab a little bit more of her leg and a tiny bit more of her rear, and then we'll call this one forward and see what that looks like. As the great thing about working in digital over doing painted proxies is that you are afforded mistakes a whole lot easier. When you make a mistake with acrylic or whatever, yeah, you can kind of cover it up or try and wash it off, but it's gonna take a lot more effort than just the undo button. That's probably one of my favorite features. Alright, let's see what this bad boy looks like. Let's copy the appropriate layer. Bam. Okay. I don't know how I feel about it, if I'm honest. It looks pretty good. It kind of gives her a lean back into the art sort of look. I think, though, I kind of want to pull Miss Phosphophyllite down just a little bit. Then we'll move her legs. This is a tad bit trickier, but if you need to, you can even, like... So, when you're moving things around like this, unfortunately the layers don't always cooperate. Or they don't cooperate, because that's not how this program works. There may be a better program, in which case point me in the right direction. But, there we go. So, now we just need to come in here and copy a little bit more of Foss's body so that we can not have that ugly little weird midline that was going on there. See how this looks. It's way too low. Don't want to bother with any of that. But what I was doing was I was lining up phosphophyllite using her elbow, because that gives me 2 points of perspective, and that helps me kind of know where she's at and what we need to do to get her in the right place. Luckily, our artist friend kept a lot of these. A lot of her is not like void or moving around in weird ways, which can happen. Again, don't begrudge your artists. They are doing this in general for free, and likewise. Because, you know, we love these shows, we love the characters, and we just want to see them do cool things. Okay, cool, that all lined up wonderfully. If you're ever concerned, just zoom in to the very pixels. Again, this isn't a speed run or nothing, so we can, yeah, things like that. Video games and whatnot. Don't want to delete that later, want to delete this later. So we can get in nice up and close to it. So we're gonna want to come up on this art, and we're going to want to pull some of these little bubbles forward. Now, one of my favorite things to use is this little magic wand. Sometimes it works, but often it doesn't. So we'll just ignore that entirely. So this artist has done a lovely job of keeping the colors blended, but not having too much contrast. So the program gets confused at what's a different color, and we can't bother with it. But it's been very helpful with some, whatever they're called, Cinnabar arts, because her little floaty bits are this metallic silver kind of color, and the program can easily distinguish those from other objects in the art. So we don't want to make it too noisy, so we might end up deleting some of these from our pull forward, but it's good to highlight more than you need, because you don't really know what it's going to look like. You can kind of get a feel for things, but oh gosh, lost my mouse. Seeing, in this case, is believing, although getting good, and I suppose this is a thing that you could have faith about, maybe put your, faith in something a little bit more concrete than my ability to select, to know how many bubbles are going to look good when pulled forward on a magic card. However, it's a very real thing, so I'm going to only believe in real things, so might as well believe in that, I suppose. Alright, cool. So, and I think what I want to do is we'll want to try and finish that off, but we'll see. Until that point, we're going to select the rest of this little bubble. So that was a part of her, or it's connected to her little thigh, hip kind of area. Select these little bubbles too. I'm just really concerned. They're very close together, and without the context of this light blue background, they're gonna look a little bit odd if there's just so many of them in one area and none of them in the other. So you can fix that a couple of different ways. You can subtract how many bubbles you have, or you can add more bubbles on another layer, on another part of it. Yeah, it looks really empty right by where her feet are. There's just so much going on over on this side, and it looks really good in the original art, but it looks a little bit sloppy here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a couple of these friends, and first I'm going to see what it looks like with them gone. There we go, that does look a little bit nicer. There's just a lot of noise And I'm going to see what it looks like if I move them over here kind of area. Want to try and keep the motion correct. So we're going to move them around, manipulate them, kind of see what feels right. I don't know if they will feel right. It's feeling okay. It's feeling okay. I'll give it that. It's better than I would have considered. We'll get rid of this little friend. I don't like how that looks. And I'm not a huge fan of this bubble. So we'll chop that off. And then we'll come in here. Suck up some of this. And it's not the best brushwork in the world, but we'll just essentially pull this color around. And because it's such a small facet on an already small card, you don't really have to, like, it's not going to look great zoomed in on, right? But when we pull out, you can't really notice it, where you would notice that gap for sure. We'll pull this across as well. Okay. I like how that comes together, actually. We just want to get rid of this. Cool. And I don't like that little blue. Awesome. Now look at this little girl. She's come out. She's ahead on this bit, but you can really tell that she leans in there. I like the little bubbles floating around, and I think she fits nicely with our other batch of slivers. She's not as aggressive as all of them. All of these have a really striking bubblingness to them, but I think having the two of these be softer and then sort of having their fractured bits be louder is going to prove us well. So this is the Sliver Queen. Thank you all for watching. Links to all the artists in the description. Go and support them and enjoy the rest of your lovely day.